Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Jacqueline. For today's video, I have my July wrap-up, which, round of applause, I'm actually posting on time, and it's by itself. I don't have to find it with any other month. I cannot believe that. It has been a while since I've done a singular monthly wrap-up video, so I'm really looking forward to breaking down the books I did read during this month. I only read a total of 6. It wasn't my best reading month. I did have a reading slump. Nothing necessarily triggered it for me. Sometimes when I have a book hangover, that happens, but I just found it was hard for me to really sit down and have the desire to read. I was kind of more browsing, venturing out into book content rather than actually reading books. But this month in August, I have so much planned. I hopefully will have my August TBR video up on Monday. I will be having a romance video up tomorrow on Sunday, and that will actually be with my old brown hair because that was pre-filmed. I was supposed to post that this past week, but I delayed it by accident, so it will just be up tomorrow. So you have a lot of content from me these next couple of days. And speaking of hair, if you have not seen my vlog, I just posted a whole vlog of me and my best friend dyeing my hair, so it's not necessarily a how-to. I can always do a follow-up video where I really kind of discuss the purple hair once I've gotten used to it, but so far, so good. It's only been like 3 or 4 days max, and I'm really loving it. Anyway, let me stop rambling and let's get on to the books I read during the month of July. Book number 1 is Far From Normal, and this is from Becky Wallace. It is a YA contemporary book that came out on May 5th. And I really did enjoy this one. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I think this is one that a lot of people can pick up and fly through. It is one of those fluffy, easy to read contemporaries. I kept referring to this as a blink of a book because it is so quick to read. It's less than 300 pages. You really get instantly invested into this story and fly through it. I read this on the beach in one sitting. It was that quick to read. Kind of came with a con in that factor because I didn't really get enough development in my opinion. I wanted more investment into these characters. I found our main female character specifically had these characteristics that I wanted to dive more into, even parts of her past that we didn't really necessarily get, and even our main male protagonist. I wanted more when it came to their background and the development of their relationship. I was even expecting a specific scene with our main character dancing. If you've read this book, you understand what I'm talking about, and that didn't happen. So I don't know, I did like it, but I didn't love this one, and I would still recommend it. It's blurbed as being Devil Wears Prada inspired YA, which I can see where they're coming from with that. We follow our main female character, Maddie, as she is a intern at her aunt's publicity firm, or the publicity firm her aunt works at, excuse me, and they are recently trying to rebrand a bad boy soccer player. Our main character actually meets this bad boy soccer player by accident, and the publicity firm is actually asking Maddie to shadow him in a way and really rebrand him herself along with the firm helping her out. So they kind of get closer as they're doing that, and there's a lot of background, you know, why is this soccer player acting like this, Maddie and her self-discovery and self-journeys. It was cute. It was very fast and fun to read on the beach, to say the least, because I finished it in one sitting. But it wasn't really my favorite contemporary of all time. The next book I read was Tangled in Ivy, and this is from Ashley Farley. Now, this is one I got NetGalley arc of, and I was trying to go through my NetGalley arcs this past month. Anyway, point blank period, this was one that I had also tried picking up in May and struggled getting into, so I ended up finally picking it up this month. We follow our main character, who is actually a twin, and at the beginning of the novel, her father is passing away from cancer. She, during sort of the grieving process, ends up finding this, I forget what it is, it's a flash drive, yes, flash drive of information from her father, which kind of follows his love story with their mother. So it is a lot of different stories wrapped into one. We do follow multiple perspectives in this story, and I thought it was interesting to say the least, but this was one of those stories where I wasn't invested into it particularly because the characters I wasn't really invested into, so I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It does have that sort of southern vibe going on with the family and that whole aspect. Yet again, we have the twin dynamic. They're very opposite. While one was at her father's bedside, the other didn't actually get to see her father before he passed away. So they have a lot of history going on between them, self-discovery involved, romance in here as well. So this wasn't my favorite, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact, you know, it took me a while to get into this one personally, and the characters were not really ones that called to me. The next 3 books I have were all ones I had a part of my Reading Rush TBR, which I have taken down. I will not be actually doing the Reading Rush anymore ever again. I really just wanted to uplift and encourage everyone else to check out other clubs, readathons, and read-alongs that we have in this community. There are so many. I know for this month I will be participating with the Unfriendly Black Hotties and their reading of the month because they always have a reading and a live show. I know Chanel, she just did an entire new book club that I will be participating in, which is called the Krusty Club, and there's even an Avatar readathon that is going on that I will be trying to participate as much as I can. I want to only uplift ones that I feel are doing their best, and I personally do not feel it is right to continue supporting the Reading Rush on this channel for me. I do want to talk about the books I have read and go forward with that, but this is kind of one of those points where we need to continually talk about what has happened, the lack of sort of accountability when it came to the host and reading the book that they placed. And I know that Marinez from My Name is Marinez has been, you know, vocalizing a lot and almost kind of formatting different questions for people to give their input in when it comes to book clubs, readathons, and read-alongs, and how to really diversify them, how to really do the best that we can with each of these clubs. So I'm going to leave her Twitter and her separate links along with all of the clubs, readathons, stuff like that I just specifically mentioned down below in the description box, but I would highly recommend to check out My Name is Marinez Twitter because she has been, you know, really kind of giving off a lot of the feedback and really holding to this conversation that needs to be had when it comes to what has happened and what will continually happen unless we actually move forward by having the discussion on what we need to fix. I would highly recommend, you know, be a part in the conversation with that, but really quickly I will reflect on the books I read for that. The first one is the historical pick that I picked up. That was weird. The historical romance pick that I had, which was the Canary Club from Sherry D. Ficklin. I did not love this one. I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. This was one that I was expecting to like a lot more. We are following the 1920s Prohibition. We have our main female character that is from a mobster family, and we have our main male character who actually got in trouble for something and is trying to do good because he has a family he wants to support, and he gets thrusted into our main female character's own mobster family. So I enjoyed it. It is dual POV, but I didn't love it. I was expecting a little bit more when it came to the romance per se. I thought that was a little bit insta-lovey, and I know this is based on actual characters, the actual mobster family, even some secondary characters like Mad Dog in here, if you have ever read this book and know what I'm referring to, are based on actual historical people, and I know it's completely different. It was one that I enjoyed but didn't love, but it did pique my interest for historical fiction, and now I definitely want to read a ton more. This isn't necessarily my favorite time period though. I don't know anyone that really wants to go back to the 1920s, and if they do, it's only for the fashion. Next I have The Merciless from Danielle Vega. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I maybe have given it a lower rating. I can't remember what I specifically gave it on Goodreads, but I did not enjoy this one, guys. This is one of those YA horror novels that is more of the bloody, gruesome side of things. I love my horrors to be a little bit more psychological. I like the twists and turns. It says that this is Mean Girls meets The Exorcism, and I can kind of understand where they're coming from, especially the exorcism part and the Mean Girls vibe. I just found that this wasn't really it for me. The one thing that kind of did boost its rating was the ending. That I was surprised by, but certain parts just I don't know, it just wasn't my vibe. Like, I was expecting more of like The Craft, which is one of my favorite movies, witch movies growing up, and it didn't even really give me that. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, I thought it did, or whatever. I was reading some reviews, but in my personal opinion, this was not really what I was expecting from my witchy sort of exorcism novel. And there are yet again some very descriptive scenes that go on that involve blood and gore and all that stuff. So it's kind of like Mean Girls meets Fear Net, in my opinion. So I didn't hate this one, but I definitely would not recommend it either. Next book I have is Four Dead Queens, and this is from Astrid Schultz. I have the ARC copy and the physical copy because this is one of the books I had on my to keep or not to keep TBR video, and this was one that I got to pick, you know, random for the reading rush. I really did actually enjoy this one. This was probably my favorite book I had actually read this past month. It is a YA fantasy standalone. We follow multiple POVs, but they are actually all females, and our main female protagonist ends up finding this comet chip that has information in regards to someone trying to kill the four queens of the world in which they live in. It's called Quadera, and each of the countries kind of have their own system that they benefit from. So for example, one country is, you know, fashion, other is technology, yada yada yada. So I really enjoyed it. I love getting to see all the twists and turns, and each chapter ends in sort of a plot twist that actually had me excited to read to see what was going to happen. This was one of those stories that I'm really actually excited to read back and reflect back on because I have a feeling I'm going to love it even more. So I will be actually keeping both of these, FYI. If you don't know, my to keep or not to keep involves books that I might be unhauling or keeping, and the concept is, do I keep one copy, do I get rid of both, do I keep both? But I will be keeping both of these because I actually started to highlight in the ARC copy. That was really fun for me to do. I just found like certain quotes I wanted to highlight, and I've been really into annotating recently, so I'm going to be keeping both of these, and I can't wait to actually reread this one. I love standalones as well. I feel like standalone novels are kind of underrated or underappreciated, so I really love the fact this was one that I thought was A+. I mean, it wasn't the perfect one for me. There were some parts in this story that were a little on the slower side, and the romance for me was a little bit insta-lovey, but everything else, the plot twist, the build-up, the world building, I thought was really well done. And then the final book I have is Forest of Souls, which is from Laurie M. Lee. This is a YA fantasy book that came out in June. We follow our main female character who is training to be the Queen's assassin, and one day her best friend actually ends up technically dying, and she ends up resurrecting her. So she comes into this knowledge of these powers she never knew she had, and no one has seen anyone have these abilities for years, and that's how the plot kind of flows from there. So I liked it. I didn't love this story. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought certain elements were really unique. I really enjoyed the sort of atmospheric writing that our author had when it came to even the concept of the Forest of Souls. I thought the world building elements was really cool. Even the magic sort of elements were cool as well. Some cons I had was, you know, I found it was hard for me to connect to these characters, specifically our main character. Yet again, I felt as though this is very repetitive with a lot of the books I have to say in this month's wrap-up video. I wasn't connected to her, and I also found that this was one of those stories where you are really dropped into it. I thought certain things would be explained and they never were. It really is one of those books that took me so long to get into, and I felt like I was really fighting to finish this book, which really sucked because it did have its good parts, but a lot of its bad parts held me back from really enjoying the story. So these are all the books that I read during the month of July. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what books you read this past month, and if you have read any of these. If so, leave it down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more and thumbs up this video, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!